This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, Heather Ho there. It's Jeff Cutter down and welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on this date. And on this day, April 28th, 1993, 30 years ago, Dale Hunter just had to go nanners. It's the Washington Capitals against the New York Islanders, Game 6 of the Patrick Division semifinals. Now, the NHL playoff format has been weird. And of course, we all know the current format is to do with divisional play in a sense. But the 93 version is different than the 2023 version. In 2023, you have the top 3 teams in each division qualify for the playoffs. Number 2 and 3 in the division would meet each other. The number 1 team in each division would meet a wildcard team. So even if you have 2 teams that are better in the Atlantic Division, for example, over in the Eastern Conference, over the Metropolitan, then you have 5 teams for one division and 3 teams for the other. But the 2 wild cards, based on points, would face a divisional leader. The wild card team with the highest amount of points would face the second place. The 2 division winners, whoever had the lowest points total, will face each other. So thus, in 2023, Florida, being the top wildcard team, the Islanders, being the top wildcard team, had more points than Florida, so they faced the division winner with the lowest points. That was Carolina. Meaning that Florida would have to face Boston, the invincible Bruins, if you will. As of this recording, the Bruins have been, we'll see what happens. But, yeah, anyhow, the Islanders aside, we'll talk about them later. But now in 93, for the Islanders, the playoff stuff was different. Each division had 4 teams make the playoffs. From 1982 to 93, it happened. Even though that back in 82, when they started this divisional playoff brouhaha, 3 of the 4 divisions had 5 teams, and there was one group, the Patrick Division, that had 6 teams. So basically, you had an 80% chance to make the playoffs if you're in each division. And of course, the North Division back in the 80s were crap. Chicago seemed to be the only superstar team of the 80s. Well, Detroit too, but St. Louis had some crap years. And then it was almost always a fight between Minnesota and Toronto for that 4th and final spot in the Norris playoffs. In fact, the famous story was 1988 when the Leafs beat the Red Wings on the final day of the season to make the playoffs and forced the Red Wings to a 6-game series. It actually bit Toronto in the butt because, they picked Minnesota at the line, but Minnesota had the fewest points in the NHL, which meant that the Leafs would have had the number 1 overall pick. But yeah, regardless of that. So the Patrick Division had 16, was it 6 teams, I think? In 1993, because Florida came in 93, 94, but anyway. So the others would face the Washington Capitals. Now, the top team in the Patrick Division were the Pittsburgh Penguins. They mercilessly took down the New Jersey Devils in 5 games. So the Penguins were the top team. So whoever won the Washington Islanders series would have to face those pesky Penguins. Now, Washington was the 2 seed in the division, which meant they got home ice. They won Game 1 as normal, 3-1. However, Game 2 saw a double overtime winner that was given, I can't remember who scored the goal. Yeah, the double overtime goal was scored by Brian Mullen. For Brian Mullen. They gave Brian Mullen credit for the goal when it should have been Ray Ferraro. Which would have been crazy because in Games 3 and 4, the Islanders won on home turf 4-3, 4-3. Both in overtime and both on goals by Ray Ferraro. So Ray Ferraro would have not only had 3 overtime goals in one playoff series by a player, which has only been done by Mal Sudden-Death Hill in 1939 in the Bruins semifinal against the Rangers, but he would have done it consecutively. Can you imagine? We know about John LeClair and his back-to-back overtime goals in the 93 Stanley Cup Finals. But on back-to-back games. But Ferraro did it first in Games 3 and 4. So the Islanders were at 3-1. Washington went home and won 6-4. No big deal. The Islanders had home ice for Game 6, and they could win it. They won both games because Washington had home ice. The first period saw Dale Hunter score his 7th goal of the series, assisted by Pat Elliott and Dmitry Kristics. Remember the name Dale Hunter. Anyway, Steve Thomas then tied it up. Yeah, he was an Islander for, assisted by Pierre Turgeon, remember the name, and Derek King. The Islanders, even though Dennis Fask, the slow prodding defenseman, was in the box for high sticking, Benoit Hogue, future Leaf, shot a puck in the net, 2-1 Islanders. Brad DeGarno, not DeGarno, DeGarno, scored from Brian Mullen and Travis Green to make it 3-1 Islanders. Man, a lot of former Leafs were Islanders at first. Steve Thomas was an Islander. Derek King, Benoit Hogue, Travis Green. Man, they had a lot of future Leafs. And then the Islanders made it 4-1 when Travis Green scored from Brian Mullen and the goalie Glenn Healy. Another future Leaf. Oh yeah, well, Dmitry Kristich was a future Leaf when he played for Washington. But anyway, that made it 4-1. And then came the moment which was shocking. Islanders, Dale Hunter in his own defensive zone went to pass, and it was a mistake. And Pierre Turgeon pounced on it, scores his 4th goal of the series, 5-1. It looks like the Islanders are going to win the game and move on to face the Penguins, who earlier had taken care of the Devils. So it would be Islanders Penguins. But then Dale Hunter inexplicably hit Pierre Turgeon from behind. The worst part was it was seconds after Turgeon raised his hands in the air celebrating the goal. Then Hunter went after Turgeon, bonked him into the boards. And then the others in Washington went through a gigantic brouhaha. Dale Hunter was booted. You got a 5-minute checking from behind penalty and a game misconduct. In the brawl, that was at the 11:29 mark. That was the only game misconduct. There were four 10-minute misconducts. Well, Paul Cavallini and Rich Pilon both got 10-minute misconducts. They didn't get penalties for fighting. They just got trouble for misconducts. Washington's Dale Hunter, stop beeping me. Washington's Dale Hunter, game misconduct checking from behind. Benoit Hogue and Pat Ellinak. Well, Hogue for the others, Ellinak for Washington, both got 5 for fighting and a misconduct, beating the tar out of each other. So, of course, Dale Hunter was fucked. The others then took back-to-back stupid penalties. As Ray Ferraro and Dennis Fask both were in the box. However, Washington did score a goal shorthanded because, Dale Hunter's 5-minute check from behind was a 5-minute major, which meant that, the Islanders would have 5 minutes of power play time, no matter how many goals they scored. If you have a 5-minute power play, you can score as many times as you want, and the player can't come back on the ice. Whereas a minor or even a double minor, it's different. It's 1 goal. But anyway, Washington scored shorthanded on a Todd Krieger goal from Kristich, and then Washington on the power play, after Ferraro and Fask both were in the box, scored a goal by L.I. Frady, a former Leaf, not a future Leaf, but a former Leaf, assisted by Kelly Miller. So somehow, in some way, Washington scored 2 goals within a minute, and it was 5-3. Fortunately for Islander fans, that was the final score. Islanders 5, Washington 3. As the legendary Don Bullprey from Waterloo, Ontario, near where I am, was in net for Washington, he was the loser, and the winner was Glenn Healy. So the New York Islanders had won the game, but lost Turgeon in the process because of that hit. The league was not too pleased, and they decided to make a statement and give Dale Hunter a 21-game suspension, not a 21-game salute, a 21-game suspension, or legitimately a quarter of the next season, because in 93 and 94, the NHL decided to put 84 games on the schedule. Instead of the normal 80, it would be 84. And 2 games per team would be at a neutral site, like Hamilton or Regina or Cleveland even. Well, anyway, the Islanders were stunned. Well, Dale Hunter deserved to get a suspension, a 21-game suspension. That was the longest suspension until Marty McSorley's whack job on Donald Brashear in 2000. And, of course, we all remember Todd Bertuzzi's hit on Steve Moore, which was really terrible. I don't condone that at all. Anyway, Dale Hunter going nanners was just humongous and all that. before I get to the Islanders stuff about the 93 run, I gotta talk about Dale Hunter. I hate that guy. I hate that guy to death. He's the president, owner, and GM of the London Knights, and that is a gigantic rival to my Kitchener Rangers. And, of course, I'm pissed off because Dale Hunter and his Knights took care of Kitchener in the second round of the OHL playoffs this year, 2023, 4-1. But all credit to Brett Brochu. Guy was just on fire as a goalie. Kitchener just couldn't buy a goal off Brochu. I give Brochu a lot of props, but not Dale Hunter. He's a cunt. There, I said it. Regardless, so the 93 Islanders will now have to take on the Penguins, the powerful Penguins, who at one time had a 17-game winning streak. And no ties were involved in that streak. So everyone thought, oh, the Islanders are fucked because, no Turgeon, no way. Because Pittsburgh had Lemieux, Yager, and Barrasso. Somehow, in some way, the New York Islanders took care of Pittsburgh in that second round. Although it was dirty tactics because Darius Kasparaitis was just trying to hump Mario Lemieux all day long, if you will. The tactics worked. Lemieux was kind of ineffective. However, it would take a Game 7 double overtime goal by David Folek. And I don't remember if I did something on David Folek and that goal. Probably not. That will probably have to be my next thing to work on, I think. So yeah, I have to take a look. I don't think I did. Lo and behold, I have not done anything on Folek. So I will make a note on it and make sure that I get to David Folek's thing. So, yeah, David Folek. I'll talk more about it when I talk about David Folek and the Islanders against the Penguins. But anyway, the Islanders took care of the Penguins in the second round, shockingly in 7 games, and Turgeon didn't even play one of those games. Turgeon came back in the middle of the Islanders-Habs conference final, but he was ineffective as the Habs took care of the Islanders in 5 games. On the way to the Stanley Cup final. But still, the Islanders, took out the Penguins. Took out the Capitals. Dale Hunter deserved what he got. I know it's sour grapes coming from a Kitchener Ranger fan, but Dale Hunter got what he deserved. Everyone knew that. Washington Capitals fan or not, he asked for it. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.